What's up, guys? Today we're going to embark on a two-part video journey where we take a $500 car and see if we can turn it into a $3,000 car. So I had this idea a while ago, and this is something I've been doing since I was like 15, and buying cars that are really, really cheap and trying to make them into something that's a lot less cheap. 500 to 3,000 is a 600% increase. It is massive, and there's a huge gap to get there, and we got a lot of challenges ahead. But before I even get into any of those, you guys need to see the car. Check it out. This is my first gen 1980 Honda Accord. Yes, this is a Honda Accord. And I love this thing. Now, this thing is mostly original. The paint's not in great shape, but it's decent enough to drive around and not be embarrassed about. It's all one color at least. This car was $500 and there's a reason. The car runs hot, and the previous owner told me that it was a gasket that connected the manifold to the actual head itself, and it wasn't a head gasket. So I went ahead and ordered that gasket before I ever even started working on this thing, and decided I would throw that on there and just see if it fixed the problem. It's an afternoon's work, and if it works, the car's ready to sell and I can just flip it and move on to the next project. Getting this manifold off was a pain, and there's several different gaskets for several different heads that Honda was trying out at the time. So I found two that I thought would work, got them, and one of them did in fact work. This procedure is the same for basically every mating surface. You just got to get it really clean. So I used a razor blade, some sandpaper, like really light sandpaper, and a wire wheel just to get all the old gasket material off. It was pretty baked on there, but after it was clean, I was able to put the manifold back on and check to see if the problem was solved. Today's video is brought to you by Raid Shadow Legends. Now, Raid is a massive online turn-based role-playing game, and it is really awesome. It's always evolving and always changing, and that is why they have sponsored a video today. There is a brand new faction to Raid. It is very cool, and we're going to talk about it today. There's a link below if you want to check Raid out. It's totally free, and it does help the channel if you download the game. Now, the new faction is called the Shadowkin. They're based really heavily on medieval Japan, so you've got things like ninjas, samurai, oni, and all kinds of other champions that are being released as we speak. There's going to be new champions coming out all the time. Now, we don't know if these guys are good, we don't know if they're bad. They just showed up a couple of months ago, and so we're going to have to kind of walk through this and see who they turn out to be. So if you want to be early on the Shadowkin story, you can get the game now and you can watch as new champions show themselves from that faction. Now, here's a few of my favorite that have been released so far, and I'm sure more are going to be coming that are really, really awesome. What I like about Raid is that it is always changing. They're always adding new things. There's always new events going on. So no matter if you haven't played in a while or you play all the time, you're always going to see new stuff and have new things to do and new challenges to try out. It keeps the game fun and interesting for a long time. Speaking of new things, Raid just passed their 2-year anniversary. They released a ton of new stuff, new tournaments, new events, new gear, and new champions. And it doesn't look like they're slowing up anytime soon, so now's a really good time to get started if you've never played the game before. Here's a couple of the new champions they've released just in the past few months, and there's more to come. There's also a new version of the Doom Tower to check out, which means new challenges and new rewards. Now, if you've never tried Raid before, now's the perfect time because Raid's giving away a free kind of starter pack to get you started on your journey to everyone who watches this channel. If you click the link below, you're gonna get a free epic champion, Jotun? I'm not sure how you pronounce it. But he is great at the Doom Tower. You're gonna get 100,000 silver, 50 gems, and 3 ancient shards, which are gonna help you kind of get started on your journey with some new champions. All this will be available right here. You click this little treasure box and all your rewards will show up right there when you log in for the first time. Now, these are only available for the next 30 days and for people who have never played the game before. So if you've never played, now's the time. Click that link below. It'll support Built, it'll give you a fun game to play, and it is totally free. Huge shout out to Raid. Thank you again for sponsoring yet another video on Built. Let's get back to the video. Here's the deal. When you buy cars, people will tell you a lot of stuff. Sometimes it's true, sometimes it's not. You never really know. Now, I don't think that this was a purposeful misdirection. But when I bought the car, the guy said it's definitely not a head gasket because the coolant and oil aren't mixing. I'm not sure. Let me just show you. Keep in mind the engine is cold. I think the moral of the story here is do your own diagnostics first. I spent a whole afternoon replacing a gasket that probably didn't have to be replaced, only to find out that's not the problem, and it's likely a head, which means I'll just have to pull this thing off again. So, I don't know, we'll see. I've never done a head gasket before, but I've got 2 cars right now that need them, so I guess I need to learn. Should be interesting. Guess you gotta learn somehow. Research time. Well, the good news is it comes out much easier the second time around. Ugh. Now I think everything's disconnected and I'm gonna disconnect the head. Never done this before. I'm excited, but I'm also super nervous and I don't really know what to do after this step, but I've got everything laid out to go back in the car. So once we get the head off, I'll maybe take it to the machine shop tomorrow. I don't know, we'll see. Okay, buddy.
Time to go now. Like, so I'm not to go in.
Okay, let's go out.
But not time to go in.
And there is our problem. That's the culprit, I believe. This gasket's totally blown out. I'm gonna bet that's why we had the leak. So now we just gotta replace it. And I gotta find a manual for this car because I can't find any information on the internet.
I made this 3D color.
Yeah. And I'm gonna need help putting this engine back together. What, buddy?
This is new one.
Yeah.
It is a big muffler.
No.
Yes.
Okay.
It's a new car.
Alright, let's go in. Come on.
No.
We gotta get out of here. It's dirty out here. Let's go.
I'm not going to go in.
Oh, okay. What time is it?
I'm not going to go in.
Okay. What do you want to do?
I
Okay.
I just want you to say here too.
Okay.
4 to 6 weeks later.
Well, I'm gonna be honest, I have no idea where we left off. This has been, well, it's been like every other project I've ever done, but for some reason I thought it was gonna be different. I gotta catch you guys up. 4 weeks. Did I say this already? It's been 4 weeks since I last turned this camera on in this shop, and this car has been sitting here in the exact same state that you guys saw it in 4 weeks ago, and I'll tell you why. These are pieces to the head of the car. I dropped it off the machine shop, and they called me like a week later and said, hey, we got a problem. And that is the problem. Now that lobe is supposed to look like this. Instead, we've got some serious, I mean, like, it's ground down. So basically, I guess one of the rocker arms or something seized up and then just ate away at that cam lobe. Okay, no big deal. So what do you do when that happens? Well, you find the only new old stock cam that you can find on the internet and you buy it, brand new. And then you also have to buy a rocker arm, which was $30 because the only place that had one was in California and it was really expensive to have it shipped for some reason. And you bring that to the head shop. Well, while those things are being shipped, the machine shop called me and said, hey, more bad news. Your head's got 4 cracks in it. Anyway, it was cracked, and guess what? Not easy to find. So what I did is bought another head. I found a remanufactured one. It was like 200 and a lot of bucks, maybe like 260. And it's so pretty and great and awesome, right? This is awesome. Look how clean and awesome that is. The problem with this head is that it's not for this car. This is a 79 Honda head. Now what you're thinking, Caleb, your car is a 79 Honda Accord, and it is, but it's got an 81 Prelude motor in it, and from 79 to 81, they made some major changes, not to the exhaust manifold, so that all looks the same, but to the actual head and block themselves. So this head does not fit that block. If you got one of these and you were wondering, it doesn't fit. Also, the whole head it's completely different. Okay, it looks similar, completely different. All right, so now we've got 2 heads that are both useless. This is the learning curve of mechanicking by yourself without any sort of mentor or teacher. And we'll put that down here with the other one. I went on a search. It took me about a week, and I found another one. And here she is in all her glory. Now, this is much cleaner than the way it looked when I got it. I actually found this in a junkyard in Missouri, and they shipped it to me, and it was perfect. Everything worked. There were a few bent valves, and that didn't matter because we had a whole lot of extras from the other head, which is great. So now we have a head that is complete, refreshed, fresh from the machine shop, super clean, beautifully machined, and it's ready to go back on the car. So hopefully this thing will run again, and it should actually run way better. Not only will it run with water in it, which is important, but there was a massive issue with that cam that was basically gone. So I think we're gonna have a much better running engine, much more power, and just overall a better thing, which is great because we are gonna be selling this car. Okay, now all I have to do is put that back on the engine and hope that I don't do something wrong. Now the good news is I do have a repair manual from 1980 for this engine, and that is gonna be super helpful, I think. All right, I'm not discouraged. I'm overwhelmed with all the information and the parts that I thought would be sitting on my bench for a week and have been sitting there for over a month, and now I don't remember where all of them go. Now I'm a little bit overwhelmed because of all of that situation, but as far as all this goes, I'm pretty excited. Let's put it together. So basically, I just cut a groove in a bolt that fits my head, and when we run this down in there and then run it back out, the dirt's gonna get caught inside that groove. That'll help clean our threads out so that we can make sure our holes are completely clean so that when we do torque everything down, it's the correct spec and everything works. Alright, we were out of grown-up Band-Aids, so I went with the PJ Masks edition. Classic. Set this right here. By the way, Pat, thanks for the table, man. Or the drawers that I'm using as a table. dowel pins. And installing a head gasket. Alright, so now is as good a time as ever to deal with this. When I bought the car, there was Bondo on the valve cover. This is new to me. I have not seen this before. But the previous owner told me that he did a bracket delete. Evidently there's some brackets for, I don't know, EGR or something on this valve cover, and he deleted those and then filled over them with Bondo and didn't end up sanding it or painting it. So before putting this back together, I've done so much work on this motor. I want it to look good when you actually look at it, and this does not look good. So I'm going to sand this stuff down. This is right at home for me. Get this thing painted, probably just black. We'll sand down the letters so the Honda's silver. Should look really cool, and then this can go back on the car. I did off camera, I did the timing set. I didn't film that because it took a lot of thought. Like, I've never done that before. I've never swapped a timing belt out. And if you don't do it right, the engine doesn't work. Like, it won't start. So I really took my time with that, like a lot of time with that. Had to do a bunch of stuff like 3 or 4 times. But it's on, it's all back together now, which is cool. And now we're just gonna finish kind of sealing everything up. So valve cover gasket's gonna go on with the new valve cover once we painted it. We'll do an oil pan gasket and then fill everything up, all the fluids up, reconnect all their stuff, and hopefully this thing runs. I don't know, we'll see. Let's do this thing. Okay, so I didn't film me putting the engine back together because my camera was really foggy. You probably noticed when I was putting the valve cover on. I took it from outside where it's rainy and cold into here where it's actually kind of warm, and it fogged up real bad. I had to wait for it to dry out. So while I was waiting on it to dry out, I threw the valve cover back on. We got our distributor back on. That was easy, just set it top dead center, slot the distributor in. I just followed the manual and then wired all my spark plugs back in. We have the carburetor hooked back up. It's a Weber 3236. In case you guys forgot from the beginning of the video, it's been a long time since this has been put together for me. I got my exhaust back hooked up. I've got my fuel line on. I got all my coolant stuff done. I had to get a little bit more. I had to get one more coolant line to replace an old rotted one. And I went and picked up some oil and some coolant. So I'm going to connect up the coolant line, and we're going to put oil in it, and we're going to put coolant in it. And then we're going to try to start it. This is the moment of truth for me because I've never done this much work on an engine before. And I will film the whole thing, but if it does not work, specifically if the head gasket leaks, I will be absolutely devastated. I mean, we'll fix it. But man, I will be devastated. So, alright, let's do it. I did put oil in it, which is good. There's no fuel going to it. Ooh, no. Ooh, bad. Yeah, oh, it's gas. Okay. Let me just show you. Okay, I saw that. But it's gasoline. Should have unplugged the pump. Hindsight. Oh, here we go. I'm gonna try to fire it up. Here we go. Ooh, okay, trying to fire. God, I'm so nervous. Alright, here we go. Sounds like the timing's out. I think I figured it out. I'm almost certain I figured it out actually. So I put the, I'm also learning about time. So let me rewind. Just rewind. Alright, so I am learning about timing and engines and all that stuff. I've never been into them. I've never liked doing them because I didn't understand enough about what's going on. And this has been a huge lesson for me in timing. So you have your crank timing and your cam timing. A lot of you guys already know what this is and how it works. I never understood it until right now. And your cam timing and your crank timing are going at different rates. But the whole goal is to be at top dead center on the right stroke. And right now, what I was doing was I was at top dead center on the exhaust stroke, so the cylinder was trying to fire when the exhaust ports were open. So my top dead center marks all kind of lined up except for the cam. The cam was 180 degrees out. So I ran it around one more time. Now the cam lines up. Now the crank lines up. We should be on the right part of the stroke, and I pulled the distributor cap off, and sure enough, the distributor was facing the opposite direction on the number 4 cylinder instead of number 1 cylinder. Whew. So what I'm gonna do, I don't even know if I have enough battery to start this thing yet. We're gonna try. What I'm gonna do is flip it around, put it in the right spot, try to start this thing again, and see if it'll fire up. One sec. Come on. Not enough. Yeah, come on. Come on. Please, go. Go. Oh, no. Oh, we got it. I think we got it. The timing, we need to, but we got it. I gotta get that battery charged. I'm wearing a really big ski jacket because it is like, I don't know the actual temperature. It feels like 9. I think it's like 17 or 20 or something. But it's snowing outside. We never get snow in Alabama. So, pretty cool, but also very cold. Not the best conditions for starting an engine, but especially a carbureted one. Let's see what we can do. Okay, it runs. It does not sound happy though. Cool. And we've got another major issue. Got coolant right there leaking from the bottom of the manifold. I found out that the coolant leak was just one of the hose clamps. It wasn't tight enough. I used a bunch of new hoses, and so I had to really crank down on them to get them to seal up, and that is sealed now, which is great. I've got no throttle control right now. I've got to get a new E-clip for the for the throttle cable. The E-clip flew off, and who knows where it is now, so I'll have to find one of those. But I'll get that sorted in just a minute. For now, I just want to let this thing run and let it get up to temperature for the first time since I've owned the car. How good it's picking up on the camera, but if you listen, that's the timing belt cover. Gotta figure out how to fix that because it's really in the way. Beautiful, 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 beautiful. I'm so happy about this. All right, the engine is warm. I don't know if I'm in focus, but the engine is warm, coolant is flowing. My temperature sender is not connected. I've got to get, the connector broke off, and I think I know which wire and everything goes where. So I've got to get a new connector to go on that so that I can hook up my temperature sender so I can know what the temperature is. So I'm not going to run it too long here. But I do have water flowing. I don't see it leaking out anywhere. Got a lot of white smoke coming out of the back of the car, which is a little bit nerve-wracking because that says coolant. But I'm hoping that that's just coolant that was trapped in the motor from all of the time of it having a bad head gasket. I put a lot of water in it. I filled it up with water right before figuring out the head gasket was bad. So I'm thinking maybe there's just some excess water in there. I hope, maybe, I don't know. I'm gonna let it run for a little bit. We'll get that connector and our throttle connector thing, and then I don't know, see what it does. With that major problem solved, the temperature was holding itself, it was totally stable. It was time to move to the next major issue, which is the interior. The interior of this car is totally blown out and really, really awful. So I loaded it up in the back of the truck and took it to an upholsterer. While it's there, I'm just gonna take some time to clean it up. I vacuum the floors, get all the carpet clean. Overall, this thing's in really good shape. All the pieces are there and everything's relatively clean. I just wanted to make sure it was nice for the new seats. Now you remember that plate box kind of thing that I made earlier? Well, it's a battery tray. The battery tray had been removed from this and the battery had been moved to the trunk, which I just didn't like. It wasn't very original and I wanted the car to look better. So I built that little tray, moved the battery back up to the front, took the massive cable out and reconnected everything like it would have been from the factory. It looks much better. The seats came back and they look incredible. He did a great job of matching the vinyl. The inserts are a little bit different because he couldn't get the actual Honda material, but I think that they fit the car really well. They match everything and it just came out great. The fitment is perfect. You will see a lot more interior stuff from me going forward. I've never had seats recovered and the difference it makes in this car shows me how important interiors are. So I won't be doing the interior stuff myself, but I will be getting some stuff recovered and doing things like this more often on the channel because it just makes such a huge difference in how the car presents itself and how the car feels. This car feels like a genuine time machine now. Just having this new interior and feeling like it drives good and feeling healthy, it's like going back to the 80s and it's really incredible to drive. Alright, that is it for this week's video. We'll have one more next Thursday and we'll just be tying up the loose ends. So finishing off the interior, fixing some of the stuff that has happened from the car sitting for so long, doing some wiring to make some systems work that don't work right now, and really just trying to get the car ready to be driven, ready to be sold. And the process is pretty normal for any car that you're gonna do, but finding these issues and solving them. So there's a few points for this whole video series, and the first is it's entertaining to watch, I think. I enjoy watching stuff like this. But the second, and probably the more important one, is I wanna encourage you guys to try stuff like this. It's really good for learning. People ask me all the time, how do you learn stuff? You guys literally just watched me learn how to change a head gasket, and that's just how I learn. I'll buy a car that's broken and figure out how to fix it. Sometimes it gets expensive, other times it doesn't. It always takes a ton of time, but at the end, I know how to do something, I have a new skill, and I can add that to everything we do here on the channel. So if you've thought about working on cars, or you're kind of nervous about getting into it, that's normal, everybody is. I was nervous buying this Honda, honestly, very nervous. And when I found out it was the head gasket, I was like sick to my stomach. But after doing it and after seeing it be successful, I feel really good about doing head gaskets now. So that is my encouragement for the day for you. If you want to learn to work on cars, get a car that you can work on and work on that car. It's gonna take a lot of time, but in the end, you'll have skills. Now, if you're wondering about the cars behind us, we've got the Fatson back here, and you may notice a little bit of, well, you guys can't see it, a little bit of metal work going on right there. And then my 911 Targa, they're both being worked on right now. I'm actually waiting on some stuff for the 911, but it's coming. The Fatson I'm working on it right now. I'm working on it right now, and it's looking awesome. So I'm hoping to have that video out to you guys in just a couple days. If it doesn't come out, it's just because it's not ready, but I think it's gonna come out, so keep an eye out for it. We're going back full swing into this thing. So just so you guys are aware, for you guys that have been missing it, for you guys that love this truck, it's coming back. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Again, we will do the second part of this video next Thursday. Make sure you look for it. We'll go from basically finishing off all the little details to actually selling the car and trying to get $3,000 from it. It should be interesting. I'll see you guys next week. Actually, I'll see you guys in a couple days, and then I'll see you again next week. I'm just trying to see you all the time. See ya.